The color on this reissue is a bit tart. Welcome back, Troglodytes, to your daily dose of guitar information, the Trogly's Guitar Show. I've got another one out of the mod collection to review and document today. This one being a cool custom color 1959 reissue that you probably wouldn't have actually found in the 50s. That color being purple? This thing's really cool, like in a non-traditional way. They had initially called this finish mulberry. It does definitely have that mulberry stain. If you're not familiar with what that is, it looks like this. I had them on trees growing up in the park. And I really like how the black plastics pair very well with the flame top, but you still have a nice dark rosewood fretboard, and then what is this? A matching headstock with junior tuners. But if all that wasn't enough for you, it is a gloss finish on the top, but the back is satin, and we have these clear back plates, but it's a satin black instead of a dark purple. However, on this one, I would almost call it more of a semi-gloss. It's definitely more of a slightly buffed satin finish, because I picked this up to review and document because we had just recently talked about one that was very similar. And that one was another mod collection creation known as Croco Melon. This one's got a nice flame top with that green finish, but then it's got the matching green back, so that's a little bit different on our mulberry burst over here. But this did not get a matching headstock at all, but we did get the P94 pickups with the Croco covers on them. But they certainly do look interesting as a pair if you're looking for non-traditional color R9s. However, if you're unfamiliar with what an R9 means, it means it's a reissue of the 1959 Gibson Les Paul Standard, pretty much the holy grail of solid body electric guitars in the Gibson world. So brand new, these things cost about $6,799 yet today. Now if you want to get them aged, they cost way more. But to custom order a new color on one, you're probably looking around $8,000 would be my guess. And that would be through Gibson's made-to-measure program, and you'd be waiting a while. So that's why when the mod collection, which is where Gibson takes their factory seconds, essentially, they had small blemishes, they give them new life with either a new custom finish or they send them off to the demo shop and just sell them as slightly blemished. But getting a custom color out of here, sometimes you can get a pretty nice deal, and it's just worth documenting their more unique ones. But outside of the unique color and see-through back plates, it really does just feel like a standard 59 reissue. They have a nice in-between neck. If you want something a little fatter, you go for the 58 reissue. If you want something thinner, you go for the 1960. But I'm also noticing they like to use Gibson USA parts when they rework them, so that's definitely a USA-style strap button, because it's one of the bigger ones. And then we'll have to see if they messed around with our electronics at all. But purple Les Pauls are pretty hard to find. They've become a little bit more common in the past couple of years, but there's still more demand than there is supply for these things. So to learn more about this weird, quirky reissue guitar, let's go ahead and throw it on the workbench to take a look at its parts and specs. Inside the mulberry R9. Okay, so I'm starting to realize maybe why this was called mulberry, because this had to have started life as some sort of a burst finish, right? And when they take that off, sometimes those aniline dyes are really strong. So I think some of the red in this is just from when they stripped off the other finish and then sprayed it over purple, but it ends up working incredibly well. I mean, you can see some of that effect on some SGs, where they opt just to play off of the red instead of trying to completely hide it. But as far as our pickups in here, it doesn't look like they messed with them. We've got custom buckers with the patent applied for decals, with readings of 8.03 in the bridge, 7.88 in the neck, and 3.98 in the middle. As far as the pickup cavity, you can see our long neck tenon, as well as some of the original red dye still in our neck pickup cavity. But the bridge pickup is surprisingly bare. You can see the mahogany, and that also helps us see our two-piece maple top on top of that mahogany body. But then, interestingly enough, they decided to mount the ground wire to the bridge through the bridge pickup cavity. I'm not going to say I haven't seen it before, but generally you don't see it done like that. But for our bridge, we have a regular Gibson ABR1, and the ABR1 is mounted traditionally directly into the body. But then our tailpiece is a Gibson USA part. It's advanced plated incorporated full weight tailpiece. I'm pretty confident all the plastics on this thing are Gibson USA style rather than historic. Why they choose to do that on some of these, I just don't know, but they do. So you got two volume controls, one for each pickup, as well as the tones, and they are the black reflector knobs. But this is something that didn't quite hit me at first. This is an R9 that left the factory without a pick guard installed. That's pretty cool, because there's some guys out there that don't like them, and they don't like the holes they leave if they want to take them off. So overall, I'd give this top finish an A+. It looks great. I love it. If you really look at it, you got a lot of vertical wood grain as well. it just gets overshadowed by this really dark purple hue. But moving on from our mahogany body maple top, we've got a rosewood fretboard and a mahogany neck. And the rosewood board is nice and dark, matches the colors very well. I just conditioned it too. It's all your standard reissue stuff. You've got 22 medium jumbo frets with your acrylic inlays, but we've got that 12-inch fretboard radius, the 24 3/4-inch scale length, with a pretty skinny nut width, 1.66 inches, and is 2.02 by the 12. First fret neck depth of 0.9, and that increases to 0.99 by the 12. Here's that neck profile at the 1st and 12th fret. You can see it goes from super rounded to widening up just a tad, but still a nice C shape. I know that made it look a little bit more dramatic than it probably really is though. That's really just the skinniness of this particular nut as compared to how wide the fretboard gets up here. Because the shape really doesn't feel like it changes that much. Like that roundedness right here pretty much goes away and becomes uniform by about the 5th fret. Now, as far as blemishes, there's some really weird binding work going on here. Like you can't even see this entire side marker inlay. It's almost like the binding got pushed over top of it. Then there's other various streaks over top of it. So that's probably why this got moved to the demo mod collection. Next up, we have my least favorite thing when buying custom shop guitars. Sometimes they send truss rods out like this, but they claim it's just fine. This is what I would consider limited adjustability. Like it doesn't need to be reset until it's a little bit farther out. But some guys say it's because they forgot to put the washer underneath it. Other times they say the rod was too long. I don't really have a good answer, but that is how it is from the factory. But you'll also notice no Les Paul silkscreen on this one. That's pretty common on these mod collection ones when they do them up all fancy. But we do still have our Gibson mother of pearl logo. But the headstock looks so much different from the rest of the body. And I think that's due to the fact that we don't have the red staining on the top. And this was probably finished over top of the holly veneer, which is a different color wood than the maple. However, looking at the edges, I don't actually see the holly. Now, it's possible that was just painted over, and that's why we're not seeing it, or they could have just took the whole thing off and just finished over and inlaid that. The truss rod cover is Gibson USA in style, not historic anymore. Moving on to the back here, I really just want to emphasize how much I love this back. Now that it's more of like a semi-gloss, because my Croco Melon, it was definitely an interesting feel, but it was a very bare bones satin, so it's like closer to raw wood. Whereas this is closer to almost glossy, but yet it still has that satiny feel to it, because you can feel that wood grain very clearly. But hey, I don't even have to take off the back plate to show you the R9 stamp right there, or any of the wiring. Looks like we got the Gibson branded pots with our Bumblebee capacitors, so they didn't change too much here. And you can see the underside of the flame maple cap. And for fun, our toggle switch. They gave us the Gibson USA style output jack plate, as well as the strap buttons that I was talking about earlier. This does have the thin binding in the cutaway still. You don't get to see the maple cap because it's painted over in this nice dark black finish. I would like to see a custom shop R9 with a mahogany top done up in the dog hair finish, kind of like this, and just have it be straight ebony. That would be a sweet piece. And moving up the back of the neck, nothing too crazy to go over here. No volutes or anything like that. We just have our mod stamp, as well as our new serial number, DS, standing for Demo Shop 0058. And again, you get your button style tuners. They're not my favorite, but it's easy enough to swap tuner tips if you don't like them, or just swap out the entire tuners. I can't help wonder what this guitar might look like with cream plastics though. It might brighten this up and make it look happier. Right now it looks very rockin', which certainly isn't a bad thing, but it weighs 8 pounds, 13 ounces on my scale. Let's go ahead, plug it in, and hear how this reissue sounds. Like the tones out of this guitar. That middle position is just perfect for Prince stuff. Chimey. Neck does the neck stuff. And the bridge is aggressive without being too over the top, I would say. Now we know all about this cool Mulberry 59 reissue. What are my final thoughts on this thing? I definitely don't regret picking this thing up to document because it's just such an interesting guitar. The purple definitely made me think Prince, but I mean, you could play whatever you want on this. But really, that middle position just sings on these pickups. They pair very well together. But it also does all your regular 59 reissue stuff. But I noticed while playing this that the red side marker tortoiseshell inlays really play off the top finish very well because you got that little bit of red poking through here, you got a little bit of red poking through there. And I just love the satin finish on the back. Because as I was telling you earlier, it's pretty well into semi-gloss territory, so it feels like a satin that's been played in a little bit, but it just left the factory like this. Now, why they have to throw random Gibson USA parts on a reissue, I don't know. That's just something the mod collection guys do. But if you're interested in being the next owner of this particular one, you can find it on my website, troglysguitarshow.com. And if not, we will catch you tomorrow on the next episode. Take care. If you enjoyed tonight's episode, consider subscribing. I post videos like this every day. And you might even enjoy this next one.